What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today I stumbled upon a very interesting topic while I was actually researching for something else. So I threw it together, and here I am. Are aliens really time travelers? Could extraterrestrials really be time travelers? And there's even some stuff about the MIB in here as well. Most of you probably know by now, if you spend any amount of time listening to me talk, that I have been, up until recently, terrified at the mere mention of anything having to do with extraterrestrials and or UFOs. Even the words outer space sent me running to my room and hiding under my covers. This is even more bizarre in the case of someone like myself, who has been seeing and experiencing some pretty extraordinary and extremely paranormal things since as far back as I can remember, and let's be real, probably since birth. So I'm definitely playing catch up here. I'm working through the reasons that have recently come to light for the possible and most likely the why of my extreme reactions to and behaviors toward and concerning such things. So, such things being ETs, bear with me as I try to keep up, meaning some of you may have heard these names, places, and things before and are like, yeah, Gemma, duh. I don't know a lot about it, and I just think it's crazy interesting. And I haven't seen a lot about it on YouTube either, not that I have much time to watch. In an effort to continue my research, as that's something I'm always doing, even in my so-called downtime, I've been watching a lot of the show Ancient Aliens. This show has brought so many questions to the forefront of my mind, and when I looked at some of the hypotheses I was drawing or the conclusions I was starting to come to about all of this, I realized I definitely wasn't alone in my thought process. So let's just jump right in. Could it be possible that the phenomenon of UFOs in our world has absolutely nothing at all to do with aliens, but everything to do with time travel? I know the question may seem rather strange, but I mean, look at the subject matter on this channel and all throughout this community at large and try to hear me out. It's actually not impossible, guys. In the interest of jumping right in, let's start with Roswell. In July of 1947, a rancher near Roswell, New Mexico, discovered debris that was allegedly unidentifiable. Officials from the nearby Air Force Base insisted that the debris was identifiable and, in fact, was just the remnants of a crashed weather balloon. Conspiracies abounded, and almost immediately it was said that this stuff was definitely from a flying saucer, as UFOs were referred to back then, and that the government were simply trying to cover it up and keep the general public, us, in the dark. Lieutenant Colonel Philip Corso was the co-author of a book in collaboration with William Burns, and the subject matter and allegations are still very much debated and picked apart by skeptics to this day. The book had been debated, laughed at, and even championed by some, and everything in between since it was written. It's called The Day After Roswell. Corso wrote that the strange bodies found at the site of the wreckage were genetically created beings that were designed to withstand the hardships and possible perils of flight in and throughout outer space as we know and define it. The claim, too, is that these beings were not the actual creators of the crafts, though. Right up until he died in 1988, Corso continued to state that he believed that even the United States government didn't have a clue who built the ship itself, and that perhaps even they were being led to believe that the pilots, these creatures found deceased among the wreckage, were the creators as well. So basically he's saying that the government probably thinks that these are ETs and that they're the creators of the ship, but that is not the case, according to Corso. He also stated that it was highly likely that same government had no idea that the bodies were created, and if they did, that they had no idea who had in fact created them. But if they were genetically engineered, then surely someone or something somewhere has to be responsible for their creation, right? He often spoke of the possibility that the ship that crash landed in Roswell was actually a time machine, one most likely built by the citizens of Earth in some unknown and very far distant future. This makes all of this so much more close to home than the usual thoughts of some distant and extremely far away and impossible to reach, far off galaxy in some solar system somewhere. And it really, really freaks me out. Despite many people celebrating Corso for being one of the main people to bring to light the idea that the thing that crashed was in fact a UFO and that there were in fact recovered bodies of unknown entities, he himself was actually considering something very different indeed. He maintained that the strange bodies of these unknown creatures who definitely were alive right before the crash landing, and that they were created by something or someone else, something or someone other. Non-organic, I guess would be the way to put it here. I could be wrong there. Obviously, guys, but I have to say it anyways. There is a ton of debate around this man and his work and this book that he co-authored that I just previously mentioned. We're only speculating here. I am by no means saying any of this is or isn't the truth. The problem is there are never any definitive or honest answers regarding extraterrestrials or UFOs in general, and until we have some honesty and actual disclosure, this is very likely going to remain speculative at best. Eventually, down the line, a long time from now probably, we may get actual answers, and this may all prove to be absolutely ridiculous, but for now, let's just humor each other, alright? Yeah. If there happens to be even the slightest bit of truth to what this man was saying, though, then there's something really terrifying, in my opinion, that we must at least consider. What if when they studied the materials that are known as, quote, the Roswell materials, end quote, the government learned something horrific and unmentionable? Something they wouldn't even consider sharing with us, the citizens at large, and that they don't ever intend to share with us. It's been more than 60 years, and Roswell is still shrouded in so much mystery and protected by a seemingly impenetrable wall of secrecy even today. Could this be the reason why? The X-Files says, quote, the truth is out there, end quote. But what if the truth is, in fact, right here and has been all along? And what if our governments know about it, that is, the governments of our world, or maybe just the United States government, because everyone loves to believe everything on our government here. I'm guilty of it too. Because at this point, and I really don't want to get political here, I wouldn't put much past them, meaning the US government. The truth could just be millennia ahead of us, but here. Those of us who inhabit Earth right now that may have been crash landed by the people of the Earth thousands or even millions of years from now. Does that make sense? I feel like when I write this, I know exactly what I'm trying to say, but then when I start saying it, I'm like, oh, that's confusing. So that's Roswell. But you guys should know by now that just one example isn't enough for me, and I absolutely must not only jump 20,000 feet deep into multiple rabbit holes all at one time regarding the same subject like I did for this one here, but that I also love taking you all along with me for the journey. Let's take a look now at the Rendlesham Forest near Suffolk, England. More specifically, what happened there in December of 1980. It's sometimes called Britain's Roswell, and a key figure here is a man named Jim Penniston. Jim joined the United States Air Force in 1973, and by the time this all went down in 1980, he was a senior security officer. It happened just outside RAF Woodbridge, which was used at that time by the United States Air Force as a base. Another man who is more well known for his experiences at this same place in the same time, and whose name is almost synonymous with this event, is USAF Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Jim Holtz. Both claimed to see things one cold December night in 1980, the 26th to be exact, which is the day after Christmas, which was alleged to be a UFO sighting as we know them to be now. So they saw a craft. I bring up the date because it seems for whatever reason Holtz wrote in his log of the event and dated it for the 27th, and I can already hear the comments about a discrepancy, but I assure you it was Charles Holtz and not my own. Holtz described lights descending into the nearby forest. Astronomers insisted the lights had been the result of a piece of natural debris, that's all they said, burning up as a meteor over southern England at the time. It was described in Holtz's memo to the Ministry of Defense as, quote, a glowing object, metallic in appearance with colored lights, end quote. The two men, Penniston and Holtz, tried to get closer to the object and approached it on foot, but as they did, the thing seemed to move right through the trees further and further away from them. Also in the logbook, it said, quote, the animals on a nearby farm went into a frenzy, end quote. Jim Penniston said he touched the unknown craft and insists he had a binary code message, quote, downloaded, end quote, directly into his brain. Let's get the definition of what a binary code is. According to a quick search on my Bing browser, it is, quote, a coding system using the binary digits 0 and 1 to represent a letter, digits, or other character in a computer or other electronic device, end quote. That's not really clear to me, but it is Bing. It stands for, but it's not Google, but okay. A site called Techopedia gives a bit more of an answer, which is, quote, binary code is the most simplistic form of data. It is represented entirely by a binary system of digits consisting of a string of consecutive zeros and ones. Binary code is often associated with machine code in that binary sets can be combined to form raw code, which is interpreted by a computer or other piece of hardware, end quote. In 1994, so about 14 years after the incident is said to have happened, Jim Penniston underwent hypnotic regression. I know a lot of people have their issues with this method of remembering, but I believe in it, and this isn't the time for the debate. Thanks. And this was said to be a way for him to uncover or recall anything that was deeply buried in his brain and well past his being able to remember organically, mainly any data relative to what had happened to him back in the forest that night. During his regression, he clearly and adamantly stated that what we believe to be aliens or extraterrestrials are, in fact, visitors from an extremely far-off future. Our future, that being the human race's future. He went on to say that we are in major, major trouble. His predictions during the regression are scary AF and extremely dark and troubling. Our Earth is so polluted that we are stricken with problems reproducing, and the problems with reproduction, he said, are overwhelming. Penniston said he was given the solution to these problems too from entities he had met in the woods that night. Unfortunately, by solution, he meant what they have resorted to doing now because of the fate of humanity. Remember, this is alleging all of this is true. The entities told Jim that they travel far into the distant past, which to us at any given time is the present day, and they collect chromosomes, sperm, and eggs from men and women in order to try and maintain the continuation of our species here on this planet. Apparently they do this in this future and possibly for the future millennia before it too, so I say coming soon. This is the only way so far they figured out how to save the human race. There's a book I cannot wait to get my hands on, and I will be covering this a lot more in depth by one of my most favorite authors of the strange, creepy, and paranormal, and also a writer from my most favoritist website for information probably on the entire internet, Mr. Nick Redfern, and it's called The Rendlesham Forest UFO Conspiracy. One of the reviews it shows here in my source material is from Dr. Ray Bosch, who is the founder of something called the Fortean Research Center, and it says of Redfern's book, quote, "I think you have produced the first truly credible examination of the entire event that is both coherent and correspondent in regard to all the facts," end quote. So stay tuned for that as well. But of course, I'm not done yet. I couldn't possibly cut a video short on something so incredibly fascinating and that I'm really starting to believe, at least at this point, which begs a lot of questions for me, right? A lot of questions. Can we talk for a moment or two, or a few, on the Men in Black and the time travel theories there? I mean, a lot of us in this community, myself included, believe that the Men in Black are some sort of extraterrestrials working for the government, at the very least the United States government, as some sort of creepy liaison to extraterrestrials. There's a very interesting theory that I came across recently that I thought would fit in well here in this script. It posits that Area 51 in Roswell, New Mexico is in fact where the MIB operate from and out of here on Earth. Like, this is their spot. This theory also states that the MIB could very well in fact be time travelers instead of the aforementioned government/extraterrestrial agents. Now, let's get one thing straight for those of you who may be new. I am not in any way, shape, or form speaking of those Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones movies, though I'll reiterate, I think it's cool how both men who played nameless agents have such common last names, Smith and Jones. Oh, and did you guys know that Will Smith actually turned down Keanu Reeves' role in The Matrix as Neo for that film? Think Jada kicked his butt for that or what? All right, focus, Gemma, focus. I'm just so excited. The movies were amazingly successful and put the words or term Men in Black on the lips of so many citizens, it kind of became, at least here in the United States, a nationally known phenomenon at that point. It got people wondering and researching what the movie actually meant and or stood for at the very least. Because of the research that random and average/everyday citizens did, at least some of them, the term MIB is no longer synonymous, at least again to many more than had the movie not been created and been such a box office smash, with something fictitious created in a room somewhere by some random Hollywood people. Outside of ufology still, but to a lesser degree now, Men in Black was synonymous with just that, Hollywood. I'll go deeper into this in other movies like Predator and Hollow Man, etc., and do a long video on how Hollywood miraculously ended up, or so it seems as we explore more and more with our iPhones and ask more questions in this community, getting it right time and time again. Another video. Back to the subject at hand though, could the MIB actually be time travelers from a far distant future? Could they be some form of human considering what it's alleged we have become at that point? I have no clue and cannot wait to hear what you guys think. I'll say this though, just for a thought. The movies were in fact based on a very short-lived, I wonder why, again, given the subject of the MIB and how the government and its agencies, mainly the MIB themselves, tend to react to such things, comic book, a short-lived comic book that was produced in 1990. The author was Lowell Cunningham, but here's what's most important for you guys to know. The comics themselves were based on allegedly factual encounters with the Men in Black. Encounters that obviously, at least to us in this community, dates back centuries. I just want to talk quickly about some interesting facts about this movie too. The main characters are named J and K. This was a shout out to the late John Keel, who wrote the critically acclaimed and widely popular book, The Mothman Prophecies. He also spent a lot of his time pursuing and tracking down alleged encounters with the MIB, mainly in the 60s and 70s. That's really interesting, right? That's so interesting, right? I'm such a dork, I know. Okay, let's get back to the real Men in Black. Who or what are they? What do they want? Why are they here? A writer/publisher named Gray Barker had an extremely interesting theory about the MIB and time travelers. Gray, for whatever frustratingly annoying reason, didn't complete his theory, but he did put some of it out there when he shared it with a man named Ivan Sanderson, who is, by title, an anomalist investigator, whatever that is. So, in this theory, the Men in Black are something called, quote-unquote, secret historians, and they go around time traveling to far-off past times, again, which are our present times, and meticulously collect as much data as possible about the history of the human race and human beings, just chronicling it for whatever sake. Unfortunately, that's kind of all Gray said about his theory, and it was never completed. But I mention it to show you that there are a lot of theories out there that involved MIB and or ETs, which, depending on what you believe, could be one and the same thing, and time travel. A man named Robert Davis spent a lot of his time researching and really digging into the so-called early years of the UFO phenomenon, mainly in the 1940s and in the 1970s. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2019, but is credited with having had an enormous amount of contact and conversations with an extremely wide range of fellow seekers of UFO information. One of these seekers was Gray Barker, who wrote the book They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers and published it in 1956. This book is one of, if not the first, to talk about the MIB phenomenon. Robert Davis wrote his own book called The Silver Bridge, which was published in 1970, which was about the Mothman and my personal favorite, Indrid Cold. Davis confided in Barker during their lengthy correspondence that spanned who knows how many years that he himself had his suspicions that Indrid Cold was not a Man in Black at all, but a time traveler. Now, I guess at this point, because this is the first thought that came to my head, I would ask him if he thought MIB were time travelers, or at the very least that they could be. Is it possible that Cold was an MIB, just a time traveler, and not the MIB we have come to know and sort of love? It's mind-boggling and extremely annoying that Barker also didn't expand on this theory, just like he didn't complete the other one. He never explained why he thought this or gave any facts or even sources to back up what he was positing. All he did was claim he, Barker, had received a personal message from Indrid Cold while researching and studying for the book. That's all he said too. He said he received a message, but never elaborated on what the message actually was. This guy is really irritating me here. I'm just saying. Essentially, both Gray Barker and Robert Davis were thinking along the same lines when it came to the future, to our future, and that's that there are time-traveling historians running around maniacally collecting data about the history of humanity here on Earth. There's a book called After the Martian Apocalypse, written by a man named Mac Tonnies, which is actually a study on the conspiracy about the quote-unquote face on Mars. He cites a potential problem with the theory said to have been brought to light by the late Stephen Hawking. Tonnies stated, quote, Stephen Hawking condemned time travel because, in his opinion, it should enable a constant stream of visitors from our own future. He assumes, perhaps unwisely, that we'd be aware of these visitors, when in truth it's remarkably easy to think of reasons our ancestors might choose not to visit at all. Other physicists are at work refuting the paradox of going back in time and killing your parents before you are born. If they're right, a time traveler from the future could interact with others, including his or her past self, so long as no action was taken that would endanger the traveler's own continued existence. It's difficult to visualize how this might work, although the idea does make logical sense. Maybe the best analogy would be a physical system that relies on a principle of least action, such as a ball rolling inexorably downhill, end quote. He also went on to say, quote, the fascinating upshot of this is that there's a chance we're indeed being visited by advanced beings from our own future, but their interactions with us would be necessarily limited lest they doom themselves to non-existence, end quote. Tony's also wondered if the many UFO sightings that have been reported for decades or possibly even centuries, also something we're going to dive deep and heavy into on all of the ancient cultures who, before even the written word, were drawing pictures of what could only be UFOs and extraterrestrials. Tony posits that they may not be due to the actions of what we are supposed to consider to be aliens who are supposed to be all the way from the other side of the galaxy or wherever, but possibly the result of time-traveling humans simply disguised as extraterrestrials to keep where they're really coming from and what they're really doing, a hidden secret from all of us. Quote, if time travel is possible, said Tony's, the behavior of UFOs may be at least partially explained. Formal contact with us would result in a casualty violation of some sort, so they must remain content with maintaining their presence behind a curtain of subterfuge, end quote. So what if all of this is true? Forget the logistics and the alleged physics of it for a minute and focus on the question I'm asking you. Look at it in its simplest terms and let me know what you think. Is it possible that what we have come to know and believe are extraterrestrials or aliens, which for some reason I feel like aliens is like a slur, are actually us, human beings, in the far, far distant future, coming from another time right here on Earth and abducting us and running all of the horrific and nightmarish experiments abductees have been reporting, again, for possibly centuries or at least decades? And what if they're doing it because we're on the fast track to not only destroying our planet, but also completely ruining and taking away our ability to reproduce? I don't know, guys. Does it have its holes? Yeah, of course it does. I could go on and on for days or weeks in a continual loop back and forth and bring in every single thing I've ever said I've believed up until this point, and it still wouldn't be enough to have no contradictions or to have it anywhere near figured out with documented proof, factual evidence. What about the Men in Black theory that they're simply time-traveling historians? Why are they so awkward and weird? What kind of future is this where these men or entities walk around and are actually recognized, even if by some top secret government organization, enough to have actual job titles? This scares me to my absolute core, and knowing me as most of you do, that in and of itself is a scary thought. Let me know what you all think in the comments below, and please, while you guys know, I always encourage you to be honest and open about your opinions and with how you feel. Always remember to respect not only yourself and others, but me too. That's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up, like the video, hit the thumbs up, please, I am begging you. As I said, leave me a comment, let me know what you think, how you feel, how awesome this video was. I am really excited about this one because I want to see where you guys are coming from with it, right? Like, I want to know more, and a lot of you guys are much more well-versed in this than I am. So please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Go on over to MoonBearOracle, my other channel, and subscribe there as well. I'm doing a content change. I just did a What's Up Let's Chat video, and I think I forgot to mention that I'm only going to be putting one video a week for just a little while, probably through the summer on GemmaJade, so I can catch up with some other projects and definitely do more on MoonBear for you guys, okay? The weekly 3-card will be on MoonBear this week. If you have any encounters with the supernatural, extraterrestrial, paranormal, otherworldly, whatever, please send them in to me for my listener encounter series at GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com. The info will be in the description box. If you would like a personal intuitive oracle reading from me, 7 to 12 cards, sometimes 15 or more, please email me your name, your first name, and birth date to MoonBearOracle@gmail.com and give me at least 2 weeks to get back to you. But I do them remotely, so that's all I need is your name and birth date. And up until June 3rd, I'm doing them for donation only. I give you the reading, you donate if you can, and whatever you can. Don't forget, Tuesday nights, we are live from another dimension. We are me and Ghost Dragons ZW. We just talk like the old campfire stories and fireside chat, catch up with you guys from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., sometimes a little longer, Eastern time. Wednesday nights, it's also me and Ghost Dragons from 7:15 to 11:15, 11:30-ish p.m. Eastern time, where I pull one card oracle reading, one card, and I'll give you an oracle reading for the week. So it's come one, come all. It's first come, first serve. So you come in, Ghost Dragons puts your name on the list. When he calls your name, I pull a card from a random deck. I have like 70. So that's where the personal intuitive oracle comes in. I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on that. I have my own business, which I'm doing a video that I'm probably putting up right before or right after this one, where I am making empowerment, cleansing, sleepy time, relaxation, lucid dreaming, passion, romance, fiery, whatever you guys need. I will make you a mixture with gemstones, moon water, and charm gemstones and moon water. I gave a better description in the other video. Also, Gemma Jade merch is on Etsy. This is called the Winds of Change. I love it. There are so many things, and I'm designing so many more as soon as I have enough time. So if you'd like to purchase my book, Missing the Faith Theory, on Amazon, the Kindle or paperback version, the links will be in the description box. If you want a signed or autographed copy, please email me at GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com before you make that purchase. I'm just finishing up the second book finally, and then the third book, Shadow Entities Beyond the Sleep Paralysis Demon, will hopefully be out by fall. I'm so excited for that one. I'll keep you guys posted. If you'd like to make a donation, I will leave my PayPal, Cash App, and Patreon links in the description box. And if you donate to Patreon $20 or more a month, you will automatically receive a 7 to 12 card intuitive oracle reading from me, one a month, my gift to you for your donation. All donations are definitely appreciated. None of them are obviously mandatory. Guys, be kind to each other, okay? It doesn't cost anything, but also make sure you are kind to yourselves and never accept anything less than others being kind to you. Always go in grace. Smile at a stranger. Thank you so much for watching and for your constant and unending support. I love and appreciate all of you so very much. I will see you guys next time.